Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Western Spirit. Today, we have a very special guest and a very interesting and important topic. So, my guest today is Simon Suleymani, and Simon will tell me if I said his name right when we say hi to him. So, Simon is a Kurdish journalist and filmmaker and activist who spent his life documenting the struggle and living it himself from northern Kurdistan. He was born in northern Kurdistan in 1988. His family was exiled to western Turkey when he was a child, and after studying English and cinema, he became a journalist and eventually serving as an Ankara correspondent for NRT TV, from Iraqi Kurdistan, right? And you have produced, Simon, over 17 documentaries on the Kurdish struggle, minorities, and refugees. And you work a work that got him arrested in Turkey in 2017. And he spent 16 months in prison before fleeing to Europe, where you live today in France. And Simon, we will talk about your current I guess, occupation as we go along because it's relevant to our conversation. So, but I just want to get you right into it. So, Simon, it's a pleasure talking to you and a true honor.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be your guest today, Ariel. And it's a
Of
long
course.
time I am trying to be the voice of my people, and it's a pleasure to talk again a podcast, a media from our dear country, Israel. Thank you very much, Ariel.
Of course. So, Simon, let's get maybe into it. So, you have been basically since your birth in your family and then you yourself in the struggle for Kurdish independence, Kurdish freedom, Kurdish rights. So maybe can you just explain your story in short and then how it can relate to what's happening now, I guess more importantly in Turkey and now in Syria, where Turkey's getting more and more influence and the Kurdish people in Syria are feeling the danger more and more acute as we speak.
Yeah. As everyone knows, in Middle East, we cannot decide our destiny. Someone comes and decide our destiny. So the real people of the region are always being the victim of their maps. So more than 1 century ago, someone divided our country, the Kurdistan, in four pieces, and they gave a piece to the Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Syria. So I was born in a community that has been already divided by someone. So I was born in a Kurdish city in the border of Armenia from northern Kurdistan under the Turkish occupation. And after a while, I realized my reality. I'm not part of that country, that soldiers, that people who are controlling the region. In the end of the 90s, the Turkish army they burned all Kurdish villages. One was our village, so they pushed us to leave the region, especially the villages in the mountains, to go to the eastern part of Turkey to be assimilated very easily. So I was a little boy of 6 years old. I saw the gendarmeries, the soldiers of Turkey, they fired our village, and I saw that in flames rising from our houses, and we, our family, mothers who were crying, we just watched, and they pushed us go to the west, and then we immigrated from our homeland, our country, our villages to the east of Turkey. So I grew up in a Turkish city which is called Izmir, and as you asked, I grew up in a very racist community against Kurds because in Turkey, during 1 century, they assimilated all other minorities, such as the Laz community, Caucasian communities, Arab communities in Turkish border. But Kurds were much more, and they didn't achieve to assimilate all of them. So they hate the Kurds. Especially, it continues today. So unfortunately, I grew up in a city like that, a community like that. I was the other, another. They hated us. We didn't like them. So they banned our languages. They banned our culture. They imprisoned our activists, politicians. So in such a chaotic community, I saw everything. So I decided to be a journalist. Even though I graduated in foreign languages, I'm a little bit interested in languages. So I decided to become a journalist. And then I worked for 7 years for a Iraqi Kurdistan-based Kurdish TV. And so I was in Ankara, even though it was forbidden to make something in Kurdish languages. So I worked as in guerrilla style, and in 2017, unfortunately, they imprisoned me.
What was the charges when they imprisoned you? Just the fact that you were a journalist in a Kurdish language TV station.
If Turkish government or Turkish state tries to imprison anyone, it's very easy to condemn them terrorism. So they uh, charged me of making propaganda of terrorism. It means PKK. But even though I was not working for a PKK media, the second is very easy nowadays, and many activists and even intellectuals are deprived of that. They say you insulted Turkish president. So I was charged of two articles in Turkey. One making the propaganda of terrorism. Second, insulting Turkish president. But I did nothing. I was just a journalist. I was defending my people, human rights, minorities, even that Syrian refugees in Turkey who were face to face Turkish racism, non-Muslim groups such as Yazidi Kurds, such as Christian communities in the region. So I was an activist who were defending human rights, but they charged me making the propaganda of terrorism.
So you had a trial, I guess, and it was basically a show trial because they wanted you to go to jail. They wanted to. So it's like the judges do what the authorities say, right? It's not like real.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Even that were there was an emergency issue in that time in 2017, 18, 19. So you had no chance sometimes to find an lawyer also. I was directly imprisoned. They said making propaganda of terrorism. He said, "What you say?" I said, "No, I'm a journalist. I'm a Kurdish journalist. I defend journalism, Kurdish rights. So this is not a right. This is not a fair judge that you do judging me making the propaganda of terrorism." So, what is terrorism? When you are a journalist, you cannot uh, separate it. So it's an aesthetic problem. It's a the problem of that. Tyranny, or we can say dictatorship. So I was just sent to the prison. They sent me, I was cast in a Kurdish city, and then they kept me in a prison in a Kurdish city, which is called Mardin. After 2 months, they isolated me to another city, a new built prison, which is called Type F, because there are two types prisons in Turkey. One is for the normal criminals, I mean the killers, the druggers. One is Type F, it's for the terrorists. So if you are not the man of government or the dictator, you are imprisoned directly and you can be charged directly as a terrorist or the propaganda of terrorists. And sometimes they say he is the spy of blah blah country. So it's very easy to be imprisoned in non-democratic countries such as Turkey.
So how long were you in prison? 17 months. So 2 months in the first one, and I guess 15 in the second one. The terrorist-based prison, specific for terrorism, and terrorism is everyone that the authorities don't like. So, so you were there, and what? How did you get out after 17 months?
Uh, I was imprisoned directly in the city, the Kurdish city, 2 months. Then they isolated me. They sent me to another one. In totally, I was in prison 16 months and a half, nearly 17 months. And during 17 months, I had no trial. I had no chance to even talk to my family. Uh, After 17 months, of course, my lawyer tried to find a solution, and this is not right. So they released me. Um, we call it the process trial. It means they keep you. They collect all the that clues in words, and then they say we will see the next one. So in my first trial, they released me. It means in Turkey, if you are a Kurdish journalist, activist, politician, or anyone who are against the dictator, they keep you a long time in prison. They threat you, and then they release you. It means leave the country. So everyone, this is a very routine, very classic process. So they released me. It means that we kept you. You see, you are a criminal in our eyes. So leave the country.
Leave if you don't want any more trouble, basically.
That's true. So they let me out, but I was dealing with my issue. I didn't want to leave the country because I wanted to stay with my people and continue my work. But I realized that after 2 months, my lawyer told me it's impossible to stay. They will re-imprison you again, send you to the prison because the trial is very obvious. So I had to leave and come to Europe.
Wow. So you came to France, and you're, I guess, seeking you were you got asylum from France.
That's true. First of all, there is no way to come to Europe as an imprisoned. So you have to uh, find a visa or come here illegally. But if you are imprisoned, it's impossible to have a visa. So I first of all crossed the border of Greece illegally. I even swam the river, and then yes, there is a river.
You took a boat.
Normally that was the plan, but the gendarmeries, they making the patrols in the border. So when our guide, who we paid much, he realized the gendarmeries, so they left. So I was totally alone, and I jumped in the river, and I swam the other side of the river, and I walked nearly 7 8 hours to reach a Greek village because it was night. So to I wanted to come there directly, and the Greek policeman took me to the station. They asked me some questions, and they realized I'm a journalist who is victim of the dictator, and they gave me a paper to come to Middle Europe. And then I come to the Athens. There, my goal was to come to France. So I deposed many papers, many documents to the embassy of France, but it was COVID time, so I had no response. So I decided to walk. I walked all Balkan countries from Greece, Albania, Kosovo, Macedonia, Montenegro, Serbia, Bosnia, Croatia, Slovenia, Italy, and then France. I walked 13 months during long time. We slept daytime in the forest, and we walked night during night in the borders. So it was very hard, difficult, because the Balkan region is not a region such as Europe. It's very mountainous. There are many rivers, forests. It was really, really hard. Finally, 4 years ago, I arrived in France, and as you said, I demanded asylum, and I am a political refugee now here.
Wow. So you walked from Greece all the way to France. Wh- How long did it take you again to walk? How many months?
In totally
Yeah.
13 months,
Wow. You
but
walked for 13 months. Well, obviously, you
yeah,
stopped along the way to you know, to rest, but you and to work maybe and do different things, but all in all, you walked, and it took you
Yeah, we
13
walked
months.
because we had no chance to stay
Right.
or to, as you said, work. No, it was impossible because Balkan countries is a region that Turkey is very effective. So if any authority keep you there, they can send you to
Yes.
Turkey directly. So I had no chance to be catched by any Balkan countries. So um I slept in the forest with different groups, of course, and I walked to the night time to cross the borders. We crossed the borders, all that borders, city by city, border by border, and of course with different groups. Such sometimes we were with uh, Pakistani groups, sometimes we were Afghan groups, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
with Kurdish groups, sometimes with Turkish groups. So there are many Turks who are trying to leave the country
Yes.
illegally and to arrive in France, Europe. So that was really difficult, very complicated. We were face to face many times with death because there is no security, there is no human rights in Balkan countries, and there is no opportunity to be safe. So unfortunately, it took 13 months. But finally, I arrived in France, and now it's more than 4 years. This month, it became 4 years I'm here. I continue my fight as a journalist, as a filmmaker. So the life is not easy for that people who have
Yeah.
been shaped by the other hands of people. As you see, Jewish people, even though you have a country, you are not in security. Uh, we always say the sovereignty of Israel and Israeli people is always under attack
Yeah.
because they didn't let you to draw your destiny uh, as we living now. That's
S-
true.
This episode is brought to you by Ayn Rand Center Israel. We meet every alternate Friday to study and discuss the philosophy of Ayn Rand, author of The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. The topics range from ethics to politics, reason versus faith, aesthetics, psychology, and much, much more. This is the only place in Israel where Ayn Rand's unique philosophy is accessible to you, and you're welcome to come learn all about it. It's a great opportunity to learn and meet really interesting people. Attendance is free, and first-timers get a free book. We meet every alternate Friday at the WeWork in Serona Market, and we like to keep the intellectual discussion going afterwards with some great food and drinks. Click the link for more info on Ayn Rand Center Israel.
Simon, let's go from your personal story to what's happening now. So, you are obviously you live the Kurdish struggle from the day you were born, and we just heard the gist of the story, which obviously I assume you can talk for hours about every country you were in and how jail was. But I want to get into what is actually happening now. So, the Syrian dictator Bashar Assad fell, and we have this new guy Jolani. We all know that Jolani originated from al-Qaeda and then ISIS and then Nusra, if I remember correctly. He's a radical Islamist. It's not a secret. I don't think he's even saying it's a secret. That's where his roots are. He's trying to put on a very moderate face for the world, for the Europeans, so he can get the sanctions off, so he can get. He's even saying things like to the Americans, "We will, we have no problem with maybe one day becoming friends with Israel if you take off all the sanctions and give us all the money and all this kind of stuff." On the other hand, we see that his people are butchering minorities, Alawites, and Druze. And so we have the Druze are closer to the Israeli borders, and Israel is trying at this point to help. They've number one parachuted in humanitarian aid the last week. We've also um, actually bombed Syrian forces and weapons that were being brought into Druze villages. And we have, on the other hand, seen videos, horrible videos of Druze
Yeah.
people that were butchered, literally butchered and tortured by these people, that by people that he supports, that are his like henchmen. what are the Kurds experiencing? They're farther away from the Israeli borders, just geographically. But on the other hand, they're very worried. The Jolani regime is being propped up by the Turks, and the Turks do not like the Kurds, like we already established. So, what is happening right now to the Kurds in under Syrian Jolani control?
Yeah, first of all, we have to say that Bashar al-Assad was a very bad dictator. He butchered many people there. He threatened all his neighbors. He killed Kurds. He killed the other minorities. He tried to be a very hard and powerful dictator in the country. But now Jolani is a terrorist. Jolani is a jihadist terrorist. So, unfortunately, the region was diriged or directed by that bad guys. We can say, fortunately, now there is no Bashar al-Assad, but there is another terrorist. He is, even though he is not powerful, he is just controlling some cities. He killed many minorities. He killed Alawite Arabs. He killed the Druzes. He's threatening the Israelis. He tries to demolish that Kurdish self-governance. So that's true. This region, I think it was two days ago, I was talking to a French TV. I said, in Middle East, there is just two communities, two people who really respect the democracy and the human rights of the others, Kurds and Jewish people. But the others, whoever gets the power, he becomes a butcher. He kills the other one, and this is the reality of Syria. But in that Syria, the Kurds have been at the front of the fight against ISIS. Especially ISIS was defeated by Kurds in northern Syria, in Rojava region. So Kurds paying a heavy price in the process. Today in the region we call Rojava have developed self-governance structures through the Syrian Democratic Forces. However, this model is under pressure by Assad and then now by Jolani and by Turkey. Turkey is threatening the Kurds, the Kurdish self-democratic system that is trying to create a very moderate area for the other minorities, for non-Muslim countries, communities. So, as long as the future of Syria remains uncertain today, the status of Kurds also is not clear. But we, the Kurds in Syria, we have enough power to maintain the democracy of region with the others. There are Armenians, there are Christians, there are Caucasians, there are Assyrians, and now we are collaborating with, trying to collaborate with Druzes. Fortunately, there is Israel who is protecting that little minority, very ancient people of region in the south. So the Kurds now try to show a hand to the Alawite of the region also. So even though I'm in Europe, I follow the region very closely. The Kurds, the Druzes, the Alawites are under attack of Sunni Salafist jihadist groups.
ISIS groups in the that are using different names, but the regime now is run by people who used to be in ISIS until ISIS became unfashionable, right? So
The mentality of jihadists are totally same. So it doesn't matter whatever is their name. al-Qaeda, ISIS, Boko Haram, or today's Jolani, HTS, it's not important. The thing is, they are the killer of the region. In the history also, they did the same. And now, even though they are very weak, they try to kill Kurds, the Druzes, Alawites, even the Christian of the region. So the situation in Syria is not very stable, but the main reason here is Turkey, because Turkey, as a Sunni country, has been long time supporting that jihadist groups They supported ISIS, they supported al-Qaeda, they supported knew that jihadist groups who came from Far Asia. There are Turks or Turkic groups from Uyghur, China, from Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan. So they have been taken by Turkey there, have been military equipped, and they attack the others. So you see, Jolani, even though he has 20,000 men, he threatens Kurds, he threatens Alevites, Druzes, even Israel. And unfortunately, he killed many Alevite groups, civilian people recently. So the situation is not very fair. But I hope how Turkey, as a Sunni country, tries to manipulate the region. I hope Israel will handle the issue, take the control of the Syria, uh, control the regions with the minorities such as Druzes, Alevites, Kurds, and maybe we will come to the Israeli-Kurdish relations. But now the role is under the hands of Israel, because Israel is a regional power, is the unique democratic country in the region. Israel is unique democratic country who shares the European values, democratic values. So is the country which is not dictatorship. So this is very important. So I hope we will handle the issue together.
God willing, Simon. One thing that I think I wanted to just ask you is: are the Kurds worried that the Turks will themselves, with the Turkish army, come in and try to take out the Kurdish forces? Is that something that they're getting ready for? Because there was all these rumors that Turkey will try to make an incursion into northern Syria, try to decapitate the Kurds, and by doing that, also, I guess, weaken the Kurds inside of the Turkish control. How are the Turks handling getting ready for that?
We Kurds are aware of that. Turkey is our occupier, occupied our countries during the time of Ottoman empires, and then they occupied all the Kurdistan during Ottoman empires, and during last century, they occupied one piece of our homeland. So in 2011, the civil war in Syria, when it occurred, Turkey directly supported ISIS jihadist groups to block the Kurds in the northern Syria, in the Rojava region. They tried it non-stoply 4 years, but they realized they cannot stop the Kurds with that jihadist groups, because the Kurdish women fighters, Kurdish army, Kurdish community was very determined, and they fought against that jihadist groups who decapitate the people. So Turkey launched three major military operations on Rojava after they realized they really cannot stop the Kurds with jihadist groups. So these three interventions aim to roll back Kurdish gains, weaken SDF or Kurdish army, Kurdish community. And even though there were Russia, United States, they established de facto control. They occupied Kurdish regions such as Kurdish city Afrin, Tel Abyad, Shahba in northern Syria, in Rojava region. So this situation has led to serious humanitarian and political losses for the Kurds. And even though the international community remained silent, so Turkey is the main threat for us, for Kurds. We are really aware of that, because Turkey occupied northern Iraq also, this southern Kurdistan. Now they built many military bases in our region. They intervene every Kurdish areas here, or cities, or Kurdish governments, whoever they find a way to intervene or occupy. So Turkey is our main enemy, main occupier. Turkey is the main supporter of jihadism, supporter of international terrorism in Middle East, especially in Syria, Kurdistan, Iraq area, which is a very big threat for Israel.
Especially now that the the Shiite um, forces have been brought back because Assad was letting Iran bring its weapons and everything, and now he's not there. So the Turks filled the void, and they've brought their proxies, their al-Qaeda, ISIS, all these other crazy groups in. They're arming them. They're giving them political support. They're giving them resources, money, all this kind of stuff, which is very weird, by the way. Turkish economy is very bad. If I was a Turkish citizen, I would be very angry that my government is giving money to these ISIS members in Syria, and I'm poor, and inflation is like in the hundreds. So, yeah,
That's true. That's true. But we have to mention
yes,
Qatar also. Qatar is one of major supporter of terrorism in the region as a powerful country
yes,
economically. But as you said, in Turkey, the economy is not good. The democratic situation is not good. There are nearly 10 million refugees in Turkey. The tension between
hmm
seculars and
Islamists.
Islamists is very high. Even the other hand, there is a huge Kurdish issue in Turkey. Even though there is a very big white elephant in the room, Turks, they support the sultan,
Yes,
they support the dictator, because Turkish community have been ruled by powerful sultans, so they want have another sultan. So this fake sultan is very sweet to them. They don't care about the economy or the other problems. Even they don't care about the democracy, human rights. They want to occupy the others and keep their wealth to their
yeah.
home. This is the character of that community, which is grow up as Turks in Turkey, especially, even though during the Ottoman time. But today, the problem, uh, Turkey, especially in two recent years, Turkey realized that after the pullback of jihadist Shia groups under the control of Iran, there is a space for them to intervene, to fill back with their proxy powers, proxy groups,
hmm
Sunni jihadist groups. So in this issue, in this position, now the Turkey and Israel are
Yes,
main rivals, because Israel tries to push back that jihadist group to make a democratic region, peaceful areas, even though in uh, Israel is under attack, even though in its borders, territories, even though in that cultural festivals also are attacked
hmm
by terrorist groups. So here the problem now will be shaped by Turkey and Israel, the
and the
bad and the
Kurds.
good. And the Kurds, yes, the Kurds are between two
Yes,
big country as a balance. So we, as a journalist, it's more than two years since the 7 October. We are promoting our support, and we are trying to convince the Kurds about Israel rights, and make a connection between Israelis
yes.
and Kurds to avoid Turks, jihadist groups, and to create a democracy together. As I said, there are two communities who really appreciate democracy: Kurds and Jewish
So,
people.
Simon, let's talk about
Israelis.
that. I think after October 7th, all of our neighbors here in the area were very happy. There was drinking
That's
and dancing and protests, but happy protests, and prayers in the mosques, where they were cheering on the slaughter of my brothers and sisters here, and the kidnapping, and
that's
just the horrible destruction that was done here to I would say that when it's done to soldiers, at least there is some sort of argument that it's legitimate military targets. But here, most of the people that were killed were citizens, just regular citizens, communities burnt, and people were happy about it. We saw the scenes in Gaza where people were cheering on just seeing the hostages, these little girls or women, and all this kind of stuff. And the only community I think that was not just not celebrating but supporting mostly and saying how much they're here for us was the Kurds. And so I wanted to maybe understand from you, why is it that in a region that hates Jews, all of our neighbors hate us, the only people that seem to be, I guess, the the Druze maybe also in Israel and certain communities, but in as a large community that there really isn't anti-Semitism that has taken hold in it, are the Kurds. Maybe you can explain to us where that comes from and what we can do from here.
In fact, we have to accept that whole the world, especially Muslim communities, countries, are very hard anti-Semite. Because when you read the Quran, they say Jewish people are cursed. There are many bad things about Jewish people in that holy books. So this makes 1.5 million people to be anti-Semite. This is the reality. Even though I was a little boy, I tried to go to the religious schools to learn Quran. There, the first thing they told us, it was Jewish people are cursed people. You should kill them. And after the recent events, especially the rising of jihadists, their main target is always Jewish people. So they say Jewish people are the sources of every bad things in Muslim countries.
There's no Jews left.
Yeah, that's true. Even though they didn't leave Jews during the history in any Muslim country, you cannot see any Jewish people in any Muslim country, but they are really anti-Semite. After I arrived here in Europe, I realized that European people are also anti-Semite. They hate the Jewish people. They are still defending that Jewish people killed Jesus. That's true. This is very ridiculous. We have to see the reality. Today, Israel has a right of sovereignty. There is a very ancient people of region who were exiled first by Romans, then by Arab countries, Muslims, and then now today they have to survive. And this is their homeland, even that it's mentioned in Muslims' holy books. It's mentioned everywhere that, for example, Jerusalem is the city of Jewish people. They say, no, we have to kill all of them. So, when you say after 7 October, the attack of terrorists killed innocent little boys, girls who were chanting, dancing in a festival, they were very happy because they are anti-Semite. They are very hard and anti-Semite. Even though there were supports from some Southern American countries also, they said, well, that they deserved it. But Kurds, even though we are under the very assimilating education of occupying countries such as Iran, Turkey, Iraq, and Syria, even though we are under their education, they shape our minds because we have no country, we have no sovereignty, and all our children are passing their education. So even though our mind is shaped by Turks, Persians, or Arabs, Kurds are not anti-Semite because we Kurds culturally, like the all minorities, the Kurdistan, which is we called region of Kurdistan, from northern to southern, from eastern to western, all region is full of many other groups. There are Christians, there are Armenians, there are Greeks, there are Caucasians, there are Turkmens, there were Jews. So we are very uh, easy people to live with the others. So we don't hate the others. So this is not our culture. Even though our mind is shaped by the other countries, the reality is very specific and easy. These countries, these communities are anti-Semite. So Israel have to protect itself, have to find a solution to protect itself, protect its people, to protect the most uh, peaceful people of the world. So I really understand. But the Kurds are rising politically in recent years, especially after the fight against ISIS. Our people realize that our main enemy is not the others. Sometimes they said the English people are enemies, French people are enemies, United States Americans are capitalists, are uh, blah blah. So they make Kurdish people to hate the others. But after the revolution of Rojava, we realized that not just us, as journalists, of course, we were aware of that, but normal people also, our people, they realized that yes, Israel is under attack, is innocent, but such as ISIS attacked the Kurds or Yazidi Kurds, so they are also under attack. And we saw everything in social media. So this helped us. There is another channel also. Some Kurdish groups, especially such as Partiya Kurdistani, our group, we are very effective on social media. We defended Israel directly. We said all Kurds must support Israel and Israel's rights and must condemn the terrorism of Hamas because this was a terrorist attack. They killed civilians. Now we have to stay together. If Turkey, Iran, or any Muslim country find a way to kill us, the Kurds, because now they cursed us also. They say you are the partner of Europeans and Israelis, you are cursed during 2,000 years. So we have to find a way to keep hand in hand, to be together, to resist against that radicalism, especially supported by Turkey.
So, Simon, what you're saying is that we, the Kurds, and the smaller minorities in the region, have a common enemy that wants to kill us all. Basically, we have the Turks, the Iranians, and the radical Islamists and the Qataris and the radical Islamists that are funded and supported by these groups who want to kill the Jews. They want to kill the Kurds, or for sure destroy their national identity, their quest for sovereignty, I guess, their willingness be to be outspoken, to be free, to be, they want to put you down. And so you have these small minorities, also the Druze and the Alawites now, and the Christians, which we should also say that the Christian, for example, Lebanon used to be majority Christian. They all were kicked out or ran away because of persecution. And so they want to take that model and use it in other places to kick out minorities from that aren't they're not even minorities, religions that aren't, or ethnic groups that aren't like what they want. And so we have to stand together. And so that is one of the reasons why we're even talking, me and you, because we want to convey to the people who are listening and reading us in the newspaper. Hopefully we'll write down and put it into the newspaper, our conversation, the fact that we, the Kurds, the Druze, the Christians in the region have a common interest of helping each other, of also ideals. We value democracy, we value freedom, we value pluralism of ideas, the fact that people aren't put in jail for saying different things that could get someone angry, and all this kind of thing. So I think that's what you're basically hitting at this entire conversation, right?
That's true. That's true. As we learn from history, as you Jews, you learn from 2,000 years of history. if you don't handle your issue, if you don't
Yes.
protect yourself, someone will come, kill you, or exile you. So today in Middle East, especially in Syria, a very colorful country with different minorities, different cultures, beliefs, they destroyed
Yes.
everything. They killed all of them. They enslaved the women as sex violations. So there is two ways in front of us. We will handle it, or they will handle it. The good people, the democratic people will handle it, or the bad people, anti-democratic or jihadist groups will
Yes.
handle it. We will create a democratic model, or Erdogan will come and kill all of them. This is very obvious,
And
very
it's
easy,
very
very
black and
clear.
white.
So
It's good versus evil, because with all of
that's
our
true.
problems, I'm the last one to say that I support the Israeli government. I have a lot of criticisms, but with all of that being said, you cannot, we the fact that I'm here and telling you that I have all this criticism and no one's going to put me in jail, no one's going to investigate me for not liking the prime minister. So that is the total opposite of where you came from when you were in Turkey and all these other things, where it's just the whole entire value system is evil. It's putting people in jail who aren't the right religion, who say the wrong things, who treat each other in a different way, and who live differently, who are ethnic minorities. It's very racist. You mentioned that at the beginning.
That's true.
If you're of a different ethnicity, you're treated a different way, and you have different rights. And so it's a very black and white issue on this point, that there's the good
That's
and
true.
there's the
As
evil.
you see, we read many things in mythologies. There is the good and
Yes.
the bad. So the fight of good and bad. But in mythology also, it's very gray. But today it's
Yes.
very clear. It's black and white. I'm not just talking about protesting against Prime Minister of Israel,
Yeah.
Mr. Bibi. I'm just talking about the culture of
Yes.
democracy. For example, a little country with a little homeland in Middle East, which is called Israel, has constitutional rights
Mm-hmm.
for Arabs,
Yes.
for Druzes, for other minorities. They have rights to be educated. They have their own universities. The Arab language is an official language there. Arab children have their rights to have their education in
Mm-hmm.
motherland. This is unbelievable. You cannot find in any Muslim country. They destroy the others if they have the
Yes.
power. So this fight is very clear. If you believe in democratic rights, human rights, you have to find that obvious differences. There is countries, non-democratic countries, who kill people. Even they kill
Yes.
their people. You see, they killed thousands of people in that protest against Erdogan. The guy, the culture who kills its own people very rudely, so they kill the others very
But
easily.
even
You
them
see
own.
that. So yes, of course. So the main target, or the main very easily be cursed two groups in Middle East are Kurds
Yes.
and Jews. So we have to, of course, the whole world have to see that. But we,
Have to
Kurds
work
and Jews,
together.
we have to be very, very determined about that issue. I'm totally with that.
Simon Suleymani, it was a pleasure talking to you. I have to say that I think we will continue this conversation. I want to also say to our listeners and viewers that when you watch the video or listen on the apps, on podcast apps, send me in the comments if you have any questions for Simon. I will pass it along and I will put them up on the comment section. Obviously, no cursing, no uh we get that a lot from our good friends, quote unquote. uh so, but if they are written in a respectful way, and really that I feel that they want Simon to give his honest opinion, and it's coming from a truthful place, I will pass them along to Simon and we'll get his reaction to your comments. So, Simon, thank you so much for being with us. Truly a pleasure. We will talk after personally, but so that's it for us here. And thank you so much for being with us. It's a great episode, I think, very important issue. And again, it's very black and white. obviously every country has its own problems, every people have their own problems, but when you compare them to our neighbors here, when you compare it to what's on the line, the decision is very clear, and I think you guys should agree with me too, but obviously it's open for interpretation. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in our next episode.